Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
We definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together.
Welcome to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Shelley.
And today we're going to talk about why you should consider volunteering to teach the faith in your church. We know you've got a lot of objections. So we're going to talk through the most common objections that we run into, why people don't feel comfortable teaching the faith in their parish or in their church.
Lisa, it kind of sounds like you might be talking from some experience there.
Yeah, I was a reluctant catechist. I got voluntold when my kids were little, and it's funny because I really didn't want to do it, and I didn't think I was right. Maybe all these objections are really what I had in the beginning, and I learned a lot, and I learned teaching the kids the faith. It just brought me a lot of joy, tears, frustration, gratitude, a desire to imbibe in an adult beverage, and it brought me immense peace. It's taught me so much about myself and challenged me in all the best ways possible. So I come from a place of experience, and I want to encourage others to jump in and try it out.
That's great.
I know you have a little experience in this too.
I, like you, I had never planned to do it. And my daughter asked me why I didn't teach her class. And so I went and explored options and kind of got started in that elementary level. But where I found I really thrive and enjoy is the middle school, high school youth ministry. And I would have never guessed that before. I was always afraid of it, that they would ask questions I wouldn't have any answers to. But it's my niche. It's where I enjoy being the most, I think.
Yeah, and that's something I have no experience with teaching the middle school, high school years. So I think this will be a good discussion, since all of my experience is elementary and little, and yours is, well, you have a lot more, but middle school, high school specifically. All right, you want to jump in? What's the first? Well, I think the first objection that I hear, or that people don't want to say out loud sometimes, is,
I don't know what that word means. What is a catechist? Isn't that like a big fancy word? I mean, it sounds really important. I'm not a catechist.
Yeah. And we do, as Catholics specifically, we do have a tendency to use churchy words, fancy words to mean something. And so we you and I try not to do that here, but it is a common thing. So there's lots of definitions that are very formal for catechists, but I'm going to give you one that my former parish uses, and I really like it. Their definition is, a catechist is one who witnesses to the faith by sharing his or her faith commitment through word, experience, prayer, and liturgy.
That is a great definition. As you were saying it, I actually can put myself right there working with the teenagers. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not there to read the book or teach them a lesson per se. Your job is to really share your faith in the classroom. I mean, you're sharing that living faith with them. So, and yes, there's some classroomy stuff that you need to do. Okay, so now that we know what a catechist is, it's not just a teacher. You're really sharing your living faith with somebody else. I guess you could, like an evangelist in a classroom, maybe. I don't know. We can come up with more fancy words. Okay, number 2, common objection.
I've never taught in a classroom. And honestly, before doing this, I had never taught in a classroom of any kind. So.
Yeah. I was going to say me too, but then I just had a flashback and I'd forgotten all about this. My confirmation year in high school, we had to volunteer at our parish, and I taught CCE. I mean, there you go, using churchy words. I taught faith formation. I had 3 kids in my class. Yep.
Oh my goodness.
I'd forgotten all about that. My junior year in high school, we had a lot of fun.
I don't think I even knew that. I was in college while you were a junior in
Yeah,
high
yeah.
school. So
So I don't know what they were thinking, but hey, I
you
did
had
it. So
3 kids?
I only had 3. It was for the kids who were repeating kindergarten. So
Oh.
they had already done kindergarten. They weren't, at school. They were, a lot of people
Mhm.
do that if they have summer birthdays and stuff.
Well, when I first approached the people at our parish about teaching or volunteering, I did not want to teach. I didn't have a clue. I'd never been in a classroom. So when I went and approached them, I was told, you know what, you can be an aide, you can be an assistant. And that's actually where I got my start, was going around and taking the attendance and handing out
Mhm.
paper and supplies, and that hand on the shoulder that says, do we need to step out for a moment?
Well, before I taught in a classroom, I didn't even know that was a thing. So yeah, that was one of the things I had to learn was walking around and putting the hand on the shoulder and standing behind a kid who needed a little more attention. But really, it's kind of like what you said, to solve this, maybe start out as an aide or an assistant.
Mhm.
Help out first.
It is a lot easier to be in a classroom and learn from watching and experiencing. And if even when you're teaching, you need the aid. I can't tell
Right.
you how hard it is there really should never be one adult alone in a classroom with children. There should always be 2 people in that room. But it is so much easier having another person with you,
Oh, yeah.
because if you kind of lose your train of thought or you need something, you can kind of look over and there's another person there going, I got your back. I'm right here with you.
Right, exactly. It is so necessary. In our parish, we were relatively new, and so I didn't. We, did, I, I had an aide the first year, but I was, I guess, the brave one. None of us had ever taught, so I was the brave one. So I just had to jump in. And what I was going to say is mentor, finding someone you can ask questions of. And most of the time, if you're in a formal classroom type setting, they're going to give you at least, if not training, they're going to give you at least a handout that says like, put your hand on the shoulder, or how to do discipline, or how to organize the class, something. And if they don't offer any training, then really resources, finding that other person who's done it before, even if it's like, you run up to them as the day you're picking up your book and you're like, hey, can you help me? Just to be brave and do it. There's so much out there, resource wise, which we're going to share with you. So don't panic. All right.
Yeah. And no, I was going to say that when you go and you talk about volunteering, if you have any questions about not being experienced in a classroom, go and ask or send an email to whoever is leading your faith formation for elementary or middle school middle school, high school in your parish, and they'll be able to give you some advice and tips.
Yes, they will do that for you. Next, this is the biggie.
I don't know enough about my faith. I can't teach kids what I don't know.
I think
So,
we've all said that. I think all of us have said that. It feels like an overwhelming prospect.
right, right. But I can't really speak for the elementary level, but at the youth ministry level, the middle school, high school level, we at our parish, we use a program called Life Teen International. And in the middle school, that's called EDGE. And in the high school, it's called Life Teen. And there are different roles and different responsibilities, but the program is very structured, and it comes with guides, prepared lesson plans. It includes questions, how to engage your kids in a small group, and you get out of it what you put into it. I tell the kids all this time, and it works for people who are volunteering to teach also. We have the weekly lesson plan. And if you look at it in advance of the night's class, you read through the plan. Maybe you look up the Bible scriptures or the catechism that they're referring to, and you can make some notes. And then you'll be a little better prepared going into it and sitting in with a small group and engaging the students in discussion.
Well, that's what I was going to say, similar, that um, elementary level, at least all the ones I've done, you get a book, and there is a teacher book in addition to the student book. And they have, you could just read it. You could just follow it along and read it. There's so much more online, at least the different publishers that we've been with over the years. And when I was teaching, we went through probably 3 or 4 different publishers, and they all had teacher guides with tips and things. But even bigger than that, it is going to happen that they're going to ask you questions or something's going to come up that you don't know and you don't really know how to answer it. And the truth is okay. The truth might be, I don't know. I really don't know. But I will go find out and tell you next week.
I've done that often with the middle school and high school kids. I don't know, but we're going to either call the youth minister over and that person knows, or I'm going to find out and bring it back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's actually where I learned about adoration. We did that whole lesson on adoration, and then we went into small group, and my kids looked at me and I looked at them and I said, does anybody else feel a little uncomfortable or unsure about this? And a couple of hands raised, and I was like, okay, guys, I could witness my own reaction to them about this being something new to me and not really knowing what to do. And so we were all kind of honest with each other. And then when it was our turn, or when at the end of that lesson we went into adoration together, we all were able to go in knowing we weren't alone in our hesitation, if that makes sense.
No, I love that, because that's truth. It's nice, especially I would say with young people, for them to see you experience something and be with them and say, and be honest. I mean, really, the authenticity is really great. Even with the littles, it can be, you can share with them that you didn't know something. They think that's fascinating that a teacher didn't know something. And then I'll tag on to what you said earlier, in that go over the lesson in advance. Like the first year or so that I taught, and I stayed in third grade. I taught third grade 6 years in a row, and then I moved up to fourth. So, because I had to. So I taught third grade 6 years in a row. Scheduling issue. So I taught third grade 6 years in a row, and it worked for me because the first year was really rough. I mean, it was rough. I had a lot to learn, but then after that, I really got to know that age, because I'm not a teacher. I got to know that age. I got to know what kind of questions they were going to ask. I got to know what kind of activities they preferred, or how long they could sit still. It just, and then I could keep notes from year to year as we went, because we had the same book for a number of years. Like, I would keep notes on what we did that day and how it went, and then move forward. So I would say do the lessons in advance. Go ahead and keep those notes of what worked and what didn't, because you never know. You might, be doing it again next year, and don't reinvent the wheel.
Something you said made me think of it. You stayed with the same class, the same grade for 6 years. And that means you weren't going through it with your child. And a lot of people who come in to volunteer, they're going through it with their child. So they'll do second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and they'll move up. But I think there's a lot of value in what you just said about staying with the same grade, because of that you get to know the age, and you've got now a really robust bag of tricks, so to speak, or you know how to approach or pivot. I moved with my kids often. And then when I got into the youth ministry and they started to age out, I stayed. So I think that kind of leads to another objection, which is, I don't have kids in the program. And I'm here to tell you, y'all, we need adults. It does not matter whether you have kids in the program. And in fact, sometimes it's better if you're not in the same class as your kid. But doing youth ministry, I've been with couples who volunteer. They're retired, and it's just their way of giving back and serving the parish. Usually a husband and wife team. One takes the girls, one takes the boys, and they're wonderful. They're fantastic. I've even known young adults who were not parents yet, who've come back and served and been there, because it's so important to them to be witnesses for those youth, especially that middle school, teenage years. They know what those kids are facing. They've recently, within the last 10 years, been through it. And that makes them connect better with these students. So you do not need a kid in the program to be a volunteer.
No. And I'll add a couple of things to that. One, I've taught my kids and I've not taught my kids. So since I stayed in third grade, I taught all my kids. All my kids came through my class. The years without my kids were probably easier than the years with my kids, because the years I had my kids, I knew most of the kids in that classroom because they were my kids' peers. And my own children wanted to be very special in the class. They wanted to be teacher's pet. And it was difficult to balance their expectations with what I felt like I needed to do for all of the kids. And two, one of the things that I really liked about my kids having other people, they really got to experience other adults, not mom and not their friends' moms, to teach them. They got exposed to all these different faith-filled adults and the way that they are living out their faith. And my kids had some amazing catechists who were not necessarily parents in the program. And that is an invaluable thing for me.
I agree completely. And as you were saying that, I was thinking in the middle school, high school level, we usually start together in the program we're on. We start together, we break up into small groups, and then come back together. And I've never had one of my children in my small group. And that's really valuable and important. And like you were saying, at that level, you're sharing more personal stories. And what am I trying to say? At that level, you're sharing more personal stories. And I think they can be more open and sharing when they're with other adults leading and guiding them. I will say that I always enjoy kind of calling them out a little bit or being goofy and then being embarrassed. Like, oh my gosh, there's my mom standing at the front saying those things or being silly or playing the game. But once they get through that first 2 or 3 weeks of uncomfortableness, they just learn to own it. And then they'll come to me later and say, somebody told me that your mom's really cool. I'm like, seriously?
That's funny. That's good. All right, we have another one. What's our next objection?
Well, as we were saying, being in the classroom does require some preparation time. Well, I don't have time to prepare. That's not something I really want to spend, an hour a week getting ready for it.
Right. And that can be very tough, especially if you work full time, have a commute. So maybe you're already rushed, or you're driving other kids around. And I've had that also. So what I would say is you can volunteer to be an aide, because there's, I would say, no prep really besides being there, showing up and being there. Help with special projects or food service. Ours are always looking for people to take home, maybe craft stuff and prep them, cut out things, or the youth ministry feeds them.
Right. Our youth ministry tries to make sure there's food available before we go into, because the way it's scheduled, these kids are coming from extracurricular activities, and we're meeting kind of in the dinner hour at times, that 6:30 to 8 p.m. range. So we try to make sure there's food available. Well, I'll say a core team member. That's another churchy word. We say youth ministry volunteers are core team members. We don't have time to be doing that because we're supposed to be with the kids. So we have a whole food team, snacks team, food team. And there's real value and service on that too, that you are contributing, especially there. There's another one, being a substitute. For a while, I had my name on the list as a substitute and would come in and just do a lesson or two. And there's a little less pressure.
Yeah.
But I
subbed for you a few times.
Yes, you did. Thank you. And if you feel like you don't know enough and you don't want to sub right away, maybe volunteer as an aide or in special projects first, and then see how you feel about coming aboard and putting your name on the sub list.
Or maybe they need office, like front office help, check kids in and out, do name tags. There's so many roles that you can do, but the whole point is to really think about if you're called to put the foot in the door and test the waters and do it.
Be present.
To be present, yes, because the truth is we're all called to pass on the faith, whether you're a parent or not, or whether you have kids who are actively in classes or not. We are all, as Christians, called to pass on our faith. All right, Shell, so someone might be going, that's a lot of objections. So why? And y'all have already said it drives you to want to imbibe adult beverages at times. Not that I would pass up a margarita, but you know what I'm saying. So why should they do it? Why
Oh my
teach?
gosh. Well, I don't even know where to start. There are so many reasons. I'm literally sitting here going, which one should I
Okay,
say
they
first?
don't want to listen to for an hour. So
When I, oh my gosh.
do you want me to start?
Yes.
Okay. I was just going to say that witnessing God through the eyes of children really helped me on my own faith journey. Watching them, like you say something and that light bulb clicks. So many times my light bulb clicked for the first time on something that I was teaching. Like I'd never really thought about it in that way. And so it was just very powerful for me. And that was that all of the hard sit in your seat and quit scooting your chair around, it makes it worth it right then.
When I first moved to this new parish, I needed to get involved and I needed to meet people. And volunteering in youth ministry was my way of stepping up and getting involved at this parish. I needed to find community, and it really did provide me with a lot of community there.
That's a good one. It really did. It I remember that for you. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and it introduced me to a variety of people who were kind of all on their own faith journey. So we were all at a different point in what we knew, and we could help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then also being new to the parish, it gave me people to see at mass and be able to smile and wave at or nod to,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't feel like we were as new anymore. It gave me, I guess, hope that this was going to become my home.
For me, it gave me the opportunity to meet a new challenge and do something that I was kind of scared of. And I actually ended up liking it. And it really surprised me. So I had to step out of my comfort zone and I enjoyed it. I even enjoyed some of the silliness, like the sing song and some of it.
Yeah. Working at the middle school and high school level, I had never been in a classroom with that age before. And it was a challenge for me. The kids are loud. They want to talk to each other. They're always on their phones. They don't always want to follow your instructions. But, and you knew there was a but because we're talking about the benefits. Man, these kids are listening, and they want to hear God's word in a way that makes them think. And so they're going to question you, and they're right at that age where they're soaking it in, and you start to see, especially at the middle school level, they're going from kids in elementary where, oh, I just believe whatever you tell me, to, oh, now I'm in the world, and especially in the high school level, I'm in the world, and I have so many things to know. And being present with them and walking with them and witnessing to them, you start to see how it takes root in them at that age. There was one night I came straight from work. I came frustrated. I'd only glanced at the lesson in advance, so I paid really close attention during the main lesson that's all together as a group. And I was so stressed out. And we go into our small group, and this was a year I had like sixth grade boys, and we were supposed to create and perform a skit, based on Ephesians, anything in Ephesians. And I didn't know what to do. And I stepped back and I just kind of let go and let God, right? And these boys all of a sudden they realized it and they stepped up. They latched onto a verse and they went up there and they really had a great time performing it. And I remember thinking, that's right. It's not about me being in control of anything. It's enough that I'm just being here walking with them, and they can do this. They can totally do this. So you've got a lot of those moments, and those are what always bring you back.
You're right. That's what makes it all worth it in the end is seeing that fire for Christ in those kids and see them um, really want to learn and embrace the faith for themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's great. So a few years ago, I wrote a 6 tips for teaching religious education article, and I'm going to link to it in the podcast because it has things, it was mostly for elementary, but just had things if you're trying it out, this is a good place to start. And then we also have created a PDF with resources and tips because we really, really, really want to encourage you, if you don't already, to give it a shot. Even if you don't have any kids in the program, even if your kids are grown and flown, or maybe they're little bitties and you want to tackle youth ministry, we want to encourage you to do it. So we have a PDF. It's in the show notes to give you some resources, because you know us, we love to learn. We consume knowledge. So we want to pass that on to you. I know not everyone likes to read, so there'll be a few books, but not everything's a book.
Promises.
Promises, yeah. We are called to be disciples and to be holy. And teaching the faith is one of those ways that we can really help children develop that personal connection to God, to help them on their path to holiness. And we as parents, as moms, yes, we are primary catechists of our children in the faith. We are the primary teachers of the faith to our children. But that doesn't mean that we aren't also called to pass it on to others. So if you're not comfortable with kids, you could also be called to pass it on to adults. Maybe that's the opportunity for you out there. But we are all called to spread the gospel and to spread the good news. So this is just one of those ways that we're inviting you to give it a shot if you haven't tried it already.
And I want to give a special plug out to that youth ministry age, that middle school and high school age. They're out in the world, and the world is going to teach them a very secular message and try to pull them away. And these are the years where we need to be very present. And I promise you will never be sorry that you volunteered for that middle school, high school youth ministry age. You will gain such an appreciation and a new love for your children and their peers during those really confusing years. It will open up communication between you and your child, and it will give your child and other children a firm faith foundation so they can face those challenging, questioning years. And as we've talked about before, it'll help them establish friendships based on faith. And you will learn more from them than you could ever teach them.
All right, so as we finish, we're going to ask, do you teach the faith in a classroom? If not, why not? I want to hear your objection. I won't argue with you, I promise, even though former lawyer here, I'll try not to. But if you have, what are the benefits you've seen? And we want to hear what your best resource is. So you can go to our website, soundmindandspirit.com, leave us a message there. Or you know what? We are hosted by Spotify, and they give us the opportunity, or give you the opportunity, to leave us a voice memo for feedback. And we would love to hear your thoughts on this. What's your objection? What's the benefit? What's your favorite resource? Just head over to the website, soundmindandspirit.com, hit the podcast button, and get the show notes and leave us a message. All right, Shelley, what do you think?
I think I'm excited about facing the new school year now.
I know it's a tall order for only seeing the kids for a few hours a week, but it really is so worth it. And I hope we've at least encouraged a few people to try it. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.